I'm Beck and welcome to my July wrap up. This is going to be a salty wrap up because I DNF'd, so I did not finish more books than I finished, but I'm going to talk about all of them and give as much detail as possible. So without further ado, let's jump into the first book that I actually finished during the month, and that would be Blood of Olympus. And this is the final book in the Heroes of Olympus story arc, which follow Percy Jackson and Annabeth Chase as they are older. They're about 17 in this series, and they encounter a whole bunch of new characters. So Jason, Leo, and Piper are the main trio in here. It's got higher stakes. I gave this one 5 stars and I really enjoyed myself. I was annoyed at myself that I didn't finish it in June because that meant I would have finished the entire series in June, but I finished it now, so it counts. Then I borrowed a whole bunch of books from the library, and thank God I did because I did not finish a whole bunch of them. So it meant that I could taste test them and go, no, I'm not into this. And it's not my mood, it's just the books. So the first one that I sampled was The Secret Service of Tea and Treason, which sounds like a fantastic mystery romp about women spies, but in almost like a historical London setting. And I think there's also magic involved too, because there's pirates and all of the pirates are women, and it just seems like a really cool setup to the world. In this installment, enemy spies are recruited to help protect the Queen. But I realized as I was listening to this one, I thought it seems like I should be familiar with some aspects of this story. Maybe I should check what book in the series it is, and it's book 3. So I ended up going, oh no, I don't mind the writing style in this book 3, but maybe I should start from the beginning. So I did not finish that one. I put it down pretty early. And then I picked up The Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels, which is the first book in the series, and that was a mistake. I say it was a mistake because even though there was romantic tension between the two leads, I got 60% into this book and I was willing to give it such a chance, but the writing style, it just kept feeling like it was stringing me along almost, and I just did not care for it. I did like the only one bed trope when it appeared in here, but I just did not either understand or feel as strongly about the plot because it really just did not seem like it was there. And I need to have a decent balance of plot versus romance for a book to mean something to me, and this one was just not hitting it for me. A lot of the dialogue had double meanings, so it did have some cleverness in there, and it felt very British in its humour, which usually is way up my alley. For example, there is a scene that I wrote down, which is Ned, who is the love interest mounted on a horse. He noticed Cecilia, the main character, who was gazing at the stirrup, and he's like, all right there? And she's like, fine, she said, in sterling British fashion, meaning that she was either fine or on the verge of complete internal catastrophe, which I found funny. You know, that is very tongue-in-cheek writing, but that went through the entire book, and so sometimes the characters were talking about something, but it wasn't the subject of the sentence, it was all inferred. I could not stand that to happen like almost 90 to 100% of the time. It was a bit exhausting, if I'm being honest, and just unnecessarily over dialogue. Like there was so much talking. So I was being very picky with this maybe, but yeah, I just could not get into it. I said in my notes that the writing was designed to be convoluted, and while I thought that it would be one that I just stuck with and then end up giving a 3 stars, because I was like, you know, I need to keep up my reading tally. I'm falling way behind on my reading challenge, and I'm like 7 books, 8 books behind now out of my goal for 80. So I think DNFing this book meant that I fell even further behind, but I'm also kind of glad that I did DNF it because I was falling into a bit of a slump mentally and I could feel myself unfocusing from it. So that was my, okay, I need to escape, I need to just return this book, and I did, and I'm glad that I let it go. Then I was like, I need a huge boost because clearly my reading is struggling a lot, and so I read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which was a reread for me. I can't count the amount of times that I have reread this one, and yet I still discovered a whole bunch of favourite things in this book that I absolutely adored. I did a whole best bits of The Way of Kings video, so you can go and check that out if you're a Way of Kings fan, because I would love to nerd out about spoilers for the book. Honestly, I just loved this series so much. I was so excited rereading it. There were some key pivotal scenes that I was like, I can't wait to get back to these because I loved them so much. So safe to say this was a 5 stars for me, which was, you know, I say an easy 5 stars because I know that I was going to give it a high rating, but at the same time, reading 1,000 pages is not an easy thing to do. And I'm happy that I managed to do that. But I think I also started it potentially at the end of June. I can't actually remember, but I feel like during July. Maybe I read it for 2 weeks or something. So yeah, maybe half of July. I'm not sure. Either way, it took me a while and I'm glad I finished it. And then I thought, oh, I have a lot of books on my to be read pile that fit a particular theme. So why not shove them into a reading vlog? And that's what I did. So I did a dragons reading vlog. If you would like to go and check that out. I started off the reading vlog with Dragon Rider by Taran Matharu. And this is a May release and I've been excited about reading it for a while. And it follows a guy who was captured by this empire after his father led not a rebellion, but an invasion. But this society takes people in rather than killing all of their war prisoners and repurposes them as essentially as slaves. And so this main character, I can't even remember his name at this point, which tells you all you need to know. He is working for a high up royal named Leonard, and Leonard is aging, getting quite old. This main character is learning from him because he's got access to all of Leonard's writing and his books. And while they're at this castle, there's a celebration, and this woman has come from a neighboring kingdom and she's trying to get married off to the prince of this world and therefore form an alliance. But things go awry. There are dragons involved as well. And, you know, I liked the element of the dragons, but I found that the writing style was just so dry to me. And it took over 30% of the book for any kind of major inciting action to happen. And by that point, I was just so bored that I did not care anymore. I had no emotional connection to this book. And even if I did finish it, I'd probably give it less than 3 stars. So in that way, a release that I was looking forward to about dragons, it was just so disappointing to me, and I ended up putting it down at 42%. So I put a lot of time into this, 42%, and then in my audiobook space, I got 60% through the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. So it feels like I tried to get a lot of mileage happening during July with my reading, but it just didn't work out that way. And so I feel like I wasted time. I know it's obviously a good thing to decide to put a book down, but I feel like I gave these books, like they were just on the cusp of being okay. And I'm so annoyed at myself that I just did not put them down sooner. I'm salty about it. I should have put them down sooner, but I didn't. If it's not doing it for me, why didn't I put it down? Stupid. The other dragon book that I tried reading was The Dragons of Deepwood Fen, which has a beautiful green and purple cover, I think, from memory, with 2 gorgeous dragons on it. And that really set the precedent. I was like, this is going to be a beautiful book. I'm going to get absorbed straight away. And it just didn't happen. This was about Rylan, who I think had a romantic interest potentially pending with another character named Rhiannon, but I barely got into this book before I decided to put it down. I got 7% in, and the writing style was so clipped and it felt, you know, simple and not very immersive to me that I thought, I'm not interested in reading this. It's about Rylan from what I can gather, and he is a ranger, but you're not supposed to, in this world, have any kind of connection to dragons because it's very taboo. But I think he has a bond with a dragon, but he's keeping it secret. And when he goes out on his rangings to forage for supplies, I think for the apothecary or something, he doesn't tell anyone, obviously, that he's going out there, not really to range for items. He's going out there to bond with his dragon. So I imagine he gets found out at some point, but I just could not stand the writing style, and I put it down so early that I didn't even get to people finding out about him. I did mention this in my reading vlog, but one of the quotes in this book was Rylan, you know, reminiscing about this lovely memory of the mentor who trained him to recognize things in the forest as he's doing his rangings. And he's like, it reminded him of the rangings he used to go on with Uncle Beckett. Beckett was dead now, but his memory lingered on. And I'm like, if you're trying to immerse me in your memory and you're reminiscing about this guy and how much significance it had to you, you just cut me off completely by going, oh yes, this beautiful memory of how I learned stuff. Also, this guy's dead now. It was just so like almost jarring, and I did not like it. So unfortunately, I also put down another dragon book, which I'm so disappointed about. But then, thank goodness, I had a saving grace with a dragon book, and that is The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. And I've gone out and purchased this book, so hopefully it comes very, very soon, which tells you that I really enjoyed it. And this one is about Anarod, and she is ranging around in the deep. She's got a bonded, almost like dragon creature with her that she has named Overbite. Anarod can talk to animals, and she's got some checkered history and past that she's trying to ignore and escape and separate herself from. However, she's also trying to escape from the local warlord named Sikaron. And while she's doing this, she encounters this ragtag crew, and they save her from Sikaron's thugs. But it turns out that this crew had more than a rescue mission on their mind, because they want Anarod to help them steal from a dragon's hoard. But the dragon they want to steal from is the same dragon that Anarod has a checkered history with, and the dragon wants to kill Anarod. And at the beginning, I just had to kind of white knuckle it and hold on because it was doing so much, but in a way that was intriguing me. I feel like the writing style in this one was more emotive and immersive, and it did that while being descriptive, and it gave me just enough of the characters for me to be interested in what the happenings were. And then as it was obviously rolling on, it was developing them. It did feel quick because obviously it is a standalone fantasy, and I'm very much used to her Chorus of Dragons series, which was obviously a 5-book series. So I do wish for more, but I also feel like that is a good way to leave a standalone, because obviously it was good if you look back on it fondly and you're like, I just wanted more of these characters. So yes, it was a lot of fun. It was very queer. I really like the poly aspect to it, which Jen Lyons usually excels at. However, if you're looking for a spicy romance or a spicy romantasy, I would consider this one to not be that, because it had a few romantic scenes, but one of them was fade to black, and then it didn't really have too much detail after. So it was more about, Anarod's journey, her character development, the dragon heist plotline, and then also a bit of romance in it at the same time. So I would take that into consideration when you pick this book up, because if you think, oh, this is going to be another romantasy, I feel like you'll be a bit disappointed. I was certainly expecting a little bit more romance from it, so I was a little bit disappointed by that. And I also felt that, it went a bit fast at times, but I mean, it had to keep the pace going to keep the energy happening. So I kind of get that as well. But I gave this one a 4 stars and I had so much fun. I can't wait to, obviously, like I said, get the physical copy and then eventually reread it too. I had a great time. So yes, I would recommend this one. A good dragon book. Hallelujah. And then, oh my God, I tried a romantasy book, and I said I'd read this in my August to be read video, and I got to it early because the library hold came up early, and I'm so glad I got it out of the way in my terrible July reading month, because if I'd read this started to read this in August, realized how bad it was, I would have been so discombobulated from my reading trajectory that I probably would have just been too angry to start anything else. And this book is When the Moon Hatched, and this one has been doing the rounds, and I have no idea why, because it was terrible. That said, if I do a romantasy video and you see it in my recommendations, just know that I am giving you a synopsis and saying this is why people might enjoy it. But personally, I'm going to be very transparent about hating it. And this one is about Rave, and she is an assassin. And, she's an assassin that actually does assassin stuff. So I was like, all right, that checks out. But she's one of those characters that is just always angry at everything. And this is a Fae-focused story as well. So whenever she was describing someone, she would say male or female, not man and woman or anything. And that is just a personal gripe of mine. It frustrates me so much. That said, what I did like is this book actually used real swear words instead of made up swear words. So it had a little bit of oomph. And at the beginning, I was willing to not accept, but just glean or gloss over Rave's anger issues, because her anger seemed to come from trauma that she hadn't quite explained yet. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she's just going to be angry because of trauma. But then one of the characters at the very beginning that she's living with, that's one of her best friends that she ended up saving way back when, this character is killed off immediately to further Rave's storyline. And I hate that fridging trope. And then after that, she wants to go and get revenge. And then this prince guy saves her from a cell, heals her, and then takes her on his dragon. And I'm like, what is the plot of this book? What is actually going on? Because nothing makes sense. I just hated the angry bravado. I really just dislike angry protagonists who have zero self-awareness, and she had absolutely none. And I got so angry at the pending sex scene, because I was like, 3 seconds ago you were willing to stab this guy in order to escape, and now you're looking at him and it's nighttime and he's asleep and he's only got one blanket over his crotch, and you're like, oh, actually no, I think he's attractive. There was no emotional development to, swing that way. It was just a spur of the moment thing. Oh, it just drove me crazy. The crass humor constantly also seemed quite out of pocket and just very edgy. So yeah, I would probably give this book 1 star, but I got 41% into it, I think, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. The sex scene was actively making me angry, so I rage quit this book. I could not do it. I wish I liked it. Romantasy is usually something that I like. I do like spicy books, but this one in particular, with the emphasis on the angry protagonist, the Fae element, and just no plot whatsoever, except just acting as a mechanism to put these two in proximity. I was like, that's not enough for me. That's not nearly enough for me. So I'm so glad I quit this book, but I'm so mad that I spent time listening to it. I'm also currently reading The Will of the Many by James Islington and really enjoying that one. So I didn't quite get to the end of it for July. I got about 40%. And I feel like if I didn't waste my time with other books, I probably would have got further into it. But that is my July wrap up. It is completely and utterly angry chaos. But if you had a better reading month than me, please let me know. I'm really hopeful that in my August to be read plans, because there are a few anticipated releases in there, that they don't let me down. So that's the end of my wrap up. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll come and chat to you down below in the comments. Bye.